Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The structure of the archivist, also known as the Watchers, revealed. What role did they play on Earth? The alignment between Jupiter and Mars today set the deep state into motion on another failed plan. Iran's monetary system was shut down today, and it is being blamed on an Israel cyber attack. More fake news from the deep state. But what is the real story? All this and more in today's World Situation Report. Now here's the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan and the Office of the Guardian.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. I know it's pretty late, but it's been a pretty busy day. Lots to talk about today, as always. Okay, so I'm going to get right to it, and we're going to talk about some regular news first. Things that are being said on some news channels are that the World Health Organization has announced that there is a monkeypox crisis in Africa, and they say it's spreading rapidly, and there's a desperate need for vaccines. They have claimed that they are putting out some requests to vaccine makers to make some monkeypox vaccines. Well, for those of you that have done any kind of research on monkeypox, it is fairly mild. It is probably even less mild than chickenpox. Usually it disappears within 2 weeks without very many symptoms, maybe a rash, that kind of thing. But I find it interesting that they're making these announcements based on a lot of other stuff that is going on. We did find some interesting laboratories and underneath the World Health Organization in Geneva. So let's just say that I don't think they'll be sending out any kind of monkeypox from there anytime in the near future. And maybe that's what they had planned all along. Next, other things that are in the news that you may or may not have heard about is Iran's monetary system was shut down today. It appears that they are having a severe liquidity crisis based on the work of the Green Dragon and their deep state. It appears that Iran had participated, probably based on their Chinese partners or Chinese deep state partners and European or UK deep state partners, the Blue Dragons and the Golden Dragons, in one of these archivist off-ledger system schemes, I guess you would say. They took a lot of the money that was in the Iranian banking system, took it off-ledger and put it into the off-ledger system. And then when that system went away and it crashed, they were left with basically no liquidity in their banking system at this point. And the only way they're going to get more Iranian dinar is actually from us. So I'm not sure what they're going to do at this point. No one has reached out to us, nor do they probably know to reach out to us. I'm sure, I know that as of a few hours ago, they were desperately waiting for China to wake up so that they could possibly get some clearance and some allocations from the Chinese, who have no hope of giving them any kind of allocations. So I don't know what the end result is going to be for Iran and its banking system at this moment in time. Are they going to start to use something else? We're not sure. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if that's made mainstream media or not yet. But that is definitely something that probably will hit the news if it hasn't already. Next, in Afghanistan, they are currently celebrating the withdrawal of American troops with a parade. This parade seemed very similar to a smaller level, I guess you would say, of what they do in Russia every year, which celebrates the ending of World War II. And in Russia, they usually parade their latest weaponry and show how their military readiness up to par, and there's a lot of veterans, and there's a lot of celebrating people that have passed away in the war in the past, and that kind of thing. Well, in Afghanistan, their parade consisted of mostly American weaponry that was left there. And we found that very interesting. I found it interesting because you may or may not know, but the Taliban, after the American exit, and I'm going to take you back a few years here, but the Taliban made a deal with the Chinese deep state, and it involved a lot of opium and heroin trade and that kind of thing. They are pretty much little China at this point, have made a lot of trade deals with China, and a lot of them are failing due to the failing economy of China. Now, I don't know if this was kind of a dig against China or how do I say it, an insult by parading around all the American weaponry. Based on all the things that are going on behind the scenes, but that is yet to be told. Based on what we were talking about in the last news with Eric Prince, who is also Chinese and also cannot be found at this moment, he was definitely took a part in both the American side of things and also the Chinese side of things in Afghanistan. He was present during the withdrawal, which was signed off by President Trump, by the way, before he went out of office and when he was still breathing. So then it was carried out during the Biden administration. There was a lot of controversy about it. Just before this happened, for the first time ever, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi at the time, made a trip over there with promises of a big position in the order during her trip or attempted trip. So there's been a lot of controversy going on with this whole Afghanistan withdrawal thing, not just what happened today, but based on the fact that it was a lot of American weapons. I don't know. I don't know what kind of deal is being made or what the Americans maybe have offered the Afghanistan people. But it certainly looks like there is a possible situation brewing there. The second thing that happened today, which I found interesting, and we have a little bit of footage of that, is that there were 50 trucks, 18-wheeler trucks, carrying cargo of some sort, which we have yet to identify, that was going across the border between Afghanistan and Iran. I think we got a video of that somewhere here. And the interesting thing, at about 5 seconds of this video, 5 seconds in, you'll see that there is an Evergreen container in the background. We all know that the Evergreen shipping company is owned by China. And just happens to be that it's going across the Iran-Afghanistan border. We don't know what's in it at this moment, but we will, hopefully that will, we will find out over the next couple of days. But 50 cargo trucks exploding on the border right after the parade with a Chinese truck carrying God knows what at the same time going across. You know, you got to kind of wonder about these things and what's really going on here. There's also been some turmoil, more turmoil in the Middle East from the standpoint of leaders in Iraq and in other countries that were supposed to be participating in this alleged beginning of the World War, look to be questioning, because payday was supposed to be either yesterday or today. Iran also promised that they were going to retaliate against Israel between Tuesday and Wednesday. It is no longer Tuesday or Wednesday in Iran as of the time of this broadcast, and we have seen nothing. The only thing that we have really seen happen is a little bit of, I think there's about 40 rockets or something like that were fired off at Israel from the Hezbollah in Lebanon. a couple days ago. So not a whole lot going on there right now, other than the fact that everybody is waiting for something they don't have, which is money. To make matters worse, it looks like Iran is also blaming their monetary system issue on a cyber attack by Israel, and that is absolutely false. That did not happen. There are also rumors going around that there was a cyber attack on America, and allegedly people's social security numbers were taken and that kind of thing. Thus far, I haven't seen anyone take the blame for that, but I believe that was part of the setup for the attack on America, and it was supposed to be a hot attack coming from the Middle East. Insert terrorist group here, or Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Thus far, no one is taking the claim for that I know of, and no one in the Middle East actually attacked the American social security system or wherever they got these numbers from, or the banking system or anything else, other than a whole group of Americans have been trying really hard to crash the banking system over the last 24 hours. In every way possible, or to find some kind of a way to own the financial system of the world. That's all I've really seen as far as regular news that is worth bringing up with some backstory to it right now. So to go back to more backstories behind everything that's going on, the archivist structure. I talked in Monday's news about the archivist structure a little bit, and how they decided that it was a great idea to hand over their keys to some of the archivist lines that are not supposed to be utilized for anything other than recording data to the deep state, or at least allowed them to use them during the Paris Olympics. Now, the plot thickens, but I will tell you what I've seen thus far is it appears that the archivists and some others that are not archivists, they had a different position, we'll talk about that in a minute, looked like they were going to make an attempt to take control of the planet and probably also the deep state. This is another surprising one for me when we're finding out who is behind it. So we've talked in the past about realm owners. And realm owners were those that were appointed by source or anti-source or neutral source, and they were appointed to, let's just say, manage the realm on one side or another's behalf, and in some cases, both of them, if they were supposed to be neutral. And in this case, we had three that were still here on Earth. And that would have been Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. And of course, contained within the same person was the ability to go to Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, which means that they are both for source and for anti-source. They are fully well aware of all the changes that have taken place, and they were fully well aware of the fact that they don't have these realms anymore, and not the third and the first and the second. Now, the archivists relate to each one of these parties as their history recorders. They were also sometimes called the Watchers. You may have heard about the Watchers on the internet. I've heard some people talk about them. And the Watchers would have not so much reported back to them, but they would have been reporting to either neutral source, anti-source, and in some cases, I guess you would say source, although that really wasn't the reason why that position, I should say, was created. It was created mainly for neutral source and anti-source because there is no need for source to manage archives. And what I mean by that is, yes, to some degree, we have had government structures, we have had other things that would require history to be recorded here on Earth because us humans were prevented from accessing our own soul records and the collective soul records of the planet and of the human race. So I could see why, that position would have been necessary. Well, out of these three, there's one in particular, and I won't name that name at this moment in time, but I know who they are. There's one in particular that was very angry about this situation. One that I'm referring to also, let's just say, it was more on the side of the dark than he was of the light. He preferred to be in the dark, and I think did that because he was one of the ones that was closest to the Omegaverse, number one. Number two, he also, let's just say, it was easier to control something that was inorganically made with a computer system or a sentient AI than it was to control the light. And therefore, even during the Dark Age, he would have more power and control by erring on the side of the dark. The other two pretty much, I would say, have remained neutral. They weren't getting in the way of this person, but they also weren't participating in what this person wanted to do. I say person, and I use that lightly. It's not a person. And this being is the one that gave the archivist, and there was an agreement and a covenant, as far as I can tell, way back to even November of last year when they started making moves on this process. I am a little shocked because when you operate on the level of a realm party, let's just say party, there are rules to this game. In rules you do not break. And that means that unless you have permission to step outside of those rules by Source itself, you could end up with the elimination of your soul at that point. I suspect they might have made these decisions because they did go outside of the rules in some way, shape, or form, and they did not have that connection to Source. Earlier today, these beings did try to go home, so to speak, and Source wouldn't allow it. And he said that you have one day to go down there and make a decision, meaning here, as to whether or not you are going to participate in fixing the mess that you made. And I don't disagree, at this point. However, they have made it hell on earth since they've been back, and I'm not so sure they're going to make that decision. I think they would rather have their soul eliminated, at least one of them, than to participate in the cleanup of this planet. And to be fair, I will say, even for the neutral ones, I will say that it's not easy being here. It's not easy, and you all know this, I'm sure. You feel it every single day. It's not easy to be here at this time. It's a time of great transition. It's not easy to be here and watch the tragedies that happen on a daily basis. And most of you, or some of you, have been involved in this. And until the last 3 years, all of you have been involved in this because we are all aware of the jobs we lost and the businesses we lost and the period of time where we weren't leaving our house and grocery stores were open at a minimal amount of time, and that type of thing that we experienced as being here. So we are also, or I am very well aware of the fact that we were on an apocalypse like 15.0 or something, at the hands of the deep state and all of their lower astral friends for a while there. So, I get it if they didn't want to stay, and I get it if they were willing to bear those consequences. At this point, we're doing okay. We've been doing this on our own, and we've been doing it without, let's just say, with resistance coming from some of them. And that's been okay. It's been fine. You know, we win sources with you. There's no battle that you will lose, and I know that. So therefore, I'm not worried about the outcome. I do worry sometimes about I'm not going to say I worry. I am concerned, because they're not the same thing, about some of the things that happen on this planet and why they're allowed to happen. So I think the same thing you guys think sometimes, especially since we haven't seen chemtrails for months, and now all of a sudden in the last week they're back. I'm like, great, you know. And obviously we know where they're coming from and why, and who was guiding them to locations when they didn't have any. So at least now we know. We'll see what kind of decision they make, and it'll probably be by noon tomorrow, because Eastern time, because they'll be out of time at that point. They had one day to make that decision. Okay, other things going on today. So the deep state has been taking, or trying to take, full advantage of all of the tools and the toolboxes that these guys gave them. Now, to make it worse, when they decided to leave before they were booted back here, they gave them everything they had, even things that the deep state didn't even understand. Did they try to use them? Oh, yeah, every single one. And in this one, I'm a little bit confused about that they were participating in today. I guess you would say the deep state. I expect to see hacking at the financial system. I expect to see them expecting Lionsgate pay, because the Lionsgate officially ended sometime around the 12th, 13th, according to them. And I'm not going to talk more about that until later on, because I think it's in our best interest at this point, as to what is really going on with that, because I don't want them to use it against us, and I don't want them to stop something. So we'll leave it at that. So officially, it ends on the 12th or 13th, and today was supposed to be, yesterday or today was supposed to be a payday for them, because they thought they get Lionsgate pay. Now, I don't know if these archivist watchers and realm people told them that's what is going to happen, or it had something to do with an alignment today between Jupiter and Mars. I'm not really sure what they're doing at this moment in time, because I caught some of them at Pembroke Castle in Wales, UK, holding some rocks and chanting some weird chants. About 6 of them were there. I'm not sure what that was all about. Another perplexing area of the world where they were doing some very strange ceremony was in the Wudang Mountains of China. Yes, that was an interesting place. Let's just say not a positive one for us. There's a lot of temples on those mountains, which, they always use religion against you, and they want you to worship something dark. So I believe that's why they built those things there. But so other ceremonies going on there. Another one was going on in Kilmer Cemetery in Skye. So please forgive me, Scottish people. I'm sure I probably didn't pronounce that properly in any way, shape, or form. But I tried, and I would try a Scottish accent, but that would also be insulting to the Scottish people of the world. So I think I'll just not do that. So for them, I don't know. Today was ceremony day. Not sure why. Not sure who told them to do a ceremony. There were several others that were attempted in different places around the world, but I don't get it. I'm not really understanding why. Is it an alignment? Is it the end of Lionsgate? Did somebody lie to them and tell them today would be the day to do a ceremony so they could appoint themselves the leaders of the world or something, so they could get more access to some of these lines that were formerly held by demons and archangels and other people in computers? I'm not sure. But nonetheless, they attempted to make some additional messes. And I apologize for not catching the one in Iran, but they attempted to make additional messes all over the place. They are still talking about the possible public execution of Khomeini. I don't think they're going to do that. Probably they would blame it on Israel or somebody, or Al Qaeda, or who knows? I don't think they're going to do anything like that unless there's a windfall. At this point, there is no stopping for the dragon folks and for the black sun folks. We are constantly monitoring to make sure there isn't going to be, at least to the best of our ability, any kind of major hot war everywhere at this moment. There's still a threat of a banking situation that they'd like to cause in the mass media, mainly here in the United States. They have not successfully gotten a hold of any kind of a line or a closed loop or a payment system or anything to where they could actually make it real at this moment. But it is being discussed and talked about. I don't really see it happening at this moment, but I really would be cautious with any kind of market investments that you may make, because if I see anything happening, it would be more attempted market manipulations in order to take money for their operations out of the markets. They don't have an off-ledger system to put them in anymore, so I'm not really sure, what they would do. For them, it kind of has to be an off-ledger situation because they need to be able to trade it up to ridiculous numbers and then put it back into the system, which implies they would need allocation numbers for that. So that obviously is not going to happen. And they keep kicking around different cryptocurrencies and those types of things. I'm also aware, and I know it's been in the news quite a bit, about the plane that went down in Brazil, and different reasons for the plane going down in Brazil. Some people say that it was people involved in the RV. I'm not quite buying that, but they've got to put it out there in some way, shape, or form that makes you want to fight for the good guys. And speaking of fighting for the good guys, there was a meme that crossed my desk, and I kind of wanted to mention it to you guys because it feels very relevant to what we're doing here. And the meme basically said that, when you watch the movie Divergent, you rooted for the rebels, the renegades. When you watch this movie and you watch that movie and it mentioned a bunch of different movies, you voted for the underdog, you voted for the rebels, you voted for those that were going against the system. And for the most part, if you're watching this, you're probably one of those people that goes against the system, or would like to go against the system. The consequences of what happens when you go against the system oftentimes prevent most people from taking that step and taking that leap. And I'm aware of that. And as I've said from the beginning, when I started doing podcasts and news and eventually news and Zoom calls and those types of things was, going against the system, even for myself, has been very difficult. And I understand that. There's a lot of advice on how to go against the system, but a lot of that advice is wrong, and has landed a lot of people in jail. There are ways to go against the system that are not going to harm you or put you into prison or cause you problems. And one of the ways is simply not to fight the system itself. And what I mean by that, don't get me wrong, I am not in any way agreement with a lot I see on the internet and a lot I hear about on the intelligence system. But on your end of it, without having access to the intelligence system, without having access to clearances and other things, how do you fight the system? The best way to fight the system is in the gray. What do I mean by in the gray? I'm not talking about going partially dark or anything, so don't take this the wrong way. What I mean is every law that has been written in every single country everywhere has rules for the humans. That means us, the slaves, the cattle. Those rules do not apply to other people. So even if you hear of people doing certain things, and not getting caught, it's probably because they're a part of the system, and it was designed that way. For us, though, we have to look at the gray in everything, number one. Number two, and I know you're going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but you have to fight like a woman. And I'm not saying you're going to throw girl punches or anything like that, guys, so don't take this the wrong way, men that are watching this. What I mean by that is we are naturally not as strong as men. I mean, we're not physically, we're not built this way. I mean, I know there are plenty of women that do bodybuilding and probably take lots of testosterone and all kinds of stuff, but for the most part, we are not those women. So we have to learn of other ways to defend ourselves in case of a conflict. And the main way we usually choose is, some of us choose to reason with the aggressor. Some of us choose to take self-defense classes, that kind of thing, if it's a physical confrontation. But for the most part, we find ways around, over, under our aggressor. Meaning, if we want to get something done and there's an aggressor standing in our way, we usually try to find a way around that aggressor, whether that is a law or that is anything, we need to do to take care of our families. We go around things. For myself, I took a lot of pride and joy and comfort in the fact that there really wasn't a system that was intact, even starting in school, that I couldn't break. The first thing you do is, I used to do is I would learn the system. I would learn what every single teacher wanted to see from me. I would learn, well, this one grades more on homework. That one grades more on tests. This one doesn't care if I ever took a test. So those classes, I would only come in to bring the homework in or whatever other assignments that were important. And I would never do anything else because it didn't matter as far as my grade was concerned. Now, those skills that I played around with, I did the same thing with jobs and employers I worked with. And I'm not saying I was disrespectful in any way. I just knew what my employer wanted to see, and I would make sure that I excelled at those things. As a small example, some of the employers that I had would just be absolutely livid if you came to work 1 minute late. Others would be they were like, well, as long as it's like within the first 5 or 10 minutes, that's okay of your shift. It's okay. But if you didn't do this particular task, they would just lose it, So you do that task extra well, extra fast, extra clean, and they're happy with you, and they don't mind if you come in 5 or 10 minutes late. So the same thing goes with the world. What CARE is designed to do is it's designed to create an entirely new system that we can exist in and become less, if not completely independent of the current system and all the things that the current system provides for us. And what I mean by systems, I'm not just talking about governments and dead presidents running around and all of those kinds of things. Yeah, that's a show. That's a nice movie. And for the most part, it, other than taxes and some other things, it doesn't really affect your day-to-day life for the most part, unless it's entertaining for you and you watch it constantly. On the other hand, the basic part of your existence is not to feed the system. And what I mean by that is, yes, there is a thing. It used to be called, it still somewhat exists, I guess, in the news because they decide, they talk and then inflation happens or the markets drop or whatever. So that can affect some people. But for the most part, there are a lot of people that get very angry about the fact that we aren't on a gold standard, as an example. And that money can just be printed and printed and printed and printed with no consequences. Now, I ask you, when you start watching these videos and the worry videos and the we're all going to die videos on YouTube and doom scrolling, it even has an official name now, it's called doom scrolling. I caution you when you watch this stuff to say, and this is not a selfish thing, how does this affect me? Is the fact that, depending on where you are in the world, is the fact that the Federal Reserve printing endless money really affect you personally? The answer to the question is no. It does affect you if they're trying to create some kind of a political maneuver which devalues the money, and it's not traded globally, so to speak. And in those cases, pretty much most of those humans have found a way around it, and they've found exchanges for dollars or exchanges for euro or other currencies, which they can use worldwide. So, that's really not even a factor. Are sanctions a factor? We look at sanctions. This country has been sanctioned. Well, 99% of the time, not all of the time, the country itself is not sanctioned. You're going to look at me and go, what? We just look at the headlines. Again, it's glittering headlines of how these things are affecting you. You look at the fact that the price of gasoline at the pump or fuel, whatever you call it, petrol, depending on where you are in the world, goes up because there's sanctions on insert country name here. That's Russia, Iran. But in reality, the country is not sanctioned. There are individuals that are sanctioned. There might be a couple of oil and natural gas companies that have been sanctioned, but that doesn't stop them from flowing oil and gas around the world. That just increases the price at your pump. But why? The answer is it really doesn't. There's just as much oil and gas flowing. There is no shortage of anything. A bacteria will continue to poop and excrete gas, and nothing really has changed other than the fact that you have to make more. You have to make more money to pay more for your petrol at the pump. In reality, pretty much every country except for Venezuela, and I know in the U.S. here, is paying 4 times the amount we are and has been for eons. So these are systems that, to some degree, I would say affect your life. This is something you should be concerned about. The lie about the sanctions is that it's a lie. I mean, it's a total lie. Are there ways around that system? It's going to be tough because, you could ride a bicycle, you could do some other things to avoid that. But that is a system that I could say is something that people probably would pay attention to make sure that they can afford to put petrol in their car or gasoline and get to where they need to go. And that's a system that is a major focus. And then eventually it'll be a different kind of travel and a different type of vehicle to get you where you need to go. That'll be healthier for you and healthier for the planet, and probably not needing to wait for bacteria to poop so that we can extract it and refine it. But as it relates to a lot of the stuff that's out there, I mean, I've seen people get into some seriously heated discussions about the Earth being flat or round. I've talked about this before. We're not going to unround it and we're not going to unflatten it, depending on what it is. It would be odd because, there are planets you can see that are also round with a telescope, a decent telescope. And if not, you don't have one, there's a place you can go, probably in your country, where you can go see that for yourself. And why would be the only flat one? Yeah, probably not. But is it going to change your life any? If so, you've been living on a flat or a round planet for a long time. Why are we having this discussion and raising your blood pressure and getting all angry, trying to convince me of your thought processes and your opinions, which you're entitled to? But as it relates to going around the system and surviving in a system that is not meant for your highest and best good, there are ways to do that. And we've been talking about them for years. We need to figure out new food supply chains for people. We need to do, and some of these things have been done and continue to be done without care assistance. These are things that I have seen people doing on their own. There's not a lot of clothing in this particular country, or it's very expensive, and therefore people are wearing clothes with holes in them all the time. Well, there are ways around that too. And there are other things that they can grow that are stronger than cotton and everything else, where they can start making clothes, or sewing their own. So we just need to be a little bit more resourceful until we cross that finish line and can really make those changes. Is the deep state going to affect your life? There are a few ways where they can, but for the most part, and for, I would say, over 90% of the people on the planet, they're really not. And getting angry at it and yelling at the letter that came in the mail from the IRS is not going to change it. You could spend that same amount of time you're yelling at that piece of paper, and you could actually look up the laws yourself, and you could find out different deductions and ways of tax, not evasion, but tax avoidance. Meaning you can open your own foundation. You can do a family foundation. What's the difference between a family foundation and a non-taxable foundation? So there's a lot of stuff out there that you can do to pay less tax, even as a W-2 employee, is what we call it here in the States. So there's a lot of stuff you can do to work your way around the system to make life better for you until all of these programs that I know all of you are working on and all of your projects start to come to fruition. And even once day one happens, it takes time. It takes months to build a factory. It takes months to build, a food processing plant. It takes a long time. I mean, these are not going to be immediate solutions to make the entire world's life better. And money doesn't solve that problem when all the systems are broken. So my homework for all of you is to take a look at a system that really annoys you, something that kind of makes you angry. And I'm talking about something that affects you personally and your family personally, whether that's a healthcare system, a tax system, anything else, the way you buy your groceries. And I challenge you to look at that particular system, how it looks in your state or your province, how it looks in your city, and how it looks worldwide. And take a hard look at that system, because it's time we get back to critical thinking and get out of if the savior syndrome, and if it's going to be it's up to me system, and make things better for you, for your family. Then, if it's something that really works well, and it's something that's not going to get people in trouble, we'd be happy to share that on UNN with everyone else. Do a field messenger report on what you've discovered in your particular area and ways around the system that work for you. Because even if we find a way around the system, and maybe it's not perfect right now, also think about that system, the new way around things that you've found, and then put the money of care and the backing of care behind it. And what can we really do for the whole world to change that system that's not working for you right now? So we really need to start stepping up, start looking at systems, start looking at how to break those systems. And you don't need to be, actually, matter of fact, in this particular case, the more experience you have, the more life experience you have, the more ability you have to learn how to break systems. It's not hard to break the system. Challenge yourself, challenge your mind, put that new wisdom that you're starting to get to the test, and start really looking at systems that don't work for you and your family, and then eventually you and your city, and then eventually the entire world, with and without care. Because money only enhances an idea and a thought, a well thought out plan. That's all it does. It doesn't create the plan for you. It doesn't make the plan work. Believe it or not, if it is not a solid plan, it will not make the plan work. It doesn't matter how much money you make if every single night after work you go out and you buy expensive clothes, or you start blowing everything that you made in that day, if not more. You're still going to be in the same amount of debt that you're in right now. So you got to have a plan. You could get another job. You think, well, I'm in all this debt, and I'm still shopping every single night. I'll get a better job and that pays me more money. And so you get the better job that pays you more money, and somehow you're still throwing more money doing the same things that got you into this position in the first place. Maybe you buy a more expensive car and your car payments go up, whatever that is. If you still don't have a plan, making more money or getting more money or access to millions or billions of dollars is not going to make that plan work. So my homework and my challenge for all of you is to find the system that is not working, that is affecting your daily life. Find solutions for that. Find solutions that will only get better or allow you to spread those solutions around the world. And that will help CARE succeed, because CARE is you. CARE is me in part, but CARE is also you. I used to have this theory, not a theory, it was something I practiced, actually. When I had an office and I had offices full of people, and I did the same thing with my child and some others, I would never let anybody walk into my office at work, in the workplace, obviously not my child, and complain. And if they were going to come in and complain about something that's not working, then I needed them to bring me at least one viable solution that would solve this issue. And I stopped calling them complaints because, the people that like to complain a lot oftentimes don't find a solution for the problem. And I further challenge you to look at the things that we can call it complain about, to look at the things that you maybe post about, and what is really important to you and to the people. So I know that there's a lot of government posts and constitution posts and all of those types of things, but in reality, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and even if you changed every line in the Constitution, and I guarantee you my life's not going to change any. But if you figure out a way to lower the price of petrol or gasoline, or find coupons or something somewhere along the way, or maybe you can negotiate with your local gas station where they do coupons once a month or whatever that is, or maybe it's included in a subsidy program in your area for low-income people. Now I'm interested. Now I want to talk to you, because I can tell you I'll wake up tomorrow and there'll be nothing different in my world if they went back to the old Constitution, rewrote the Constitution, changed it up in every single way. It's not gonna make a difference. I mean, not in any way. Matter of fact, I've been doing some research into this Iran thing and who's going to be blamed for cyber attacks, and I just got a message from one of my contacts, and the message was that now apparently Trump is blaming Iran for his campaign hacks. I don't know if he's having campaign hacks on this one, or he's saying the last one, or the 2020 thing. I have no idea, but you can see how quickly this mess turns into this big political crisis. In reality, I'm still going to wake up tomorrow morning. God willing, I still have my place. And whether it was Iran, or no one, or their own operatives, which it was, that hacked the 2020 election, or allegedly hacked the 2020 election, it ain't going to change my day. It's not going to feed anybody's kids. It's not going to change my health care system or what I choose for my own health, and what I can educate others on. It doesn't do anything. So, I just thought I'd throw that bit of news in there because it came up as I was talking to you. So I challenge you And I challenge you to challenge yourself at truly starting to think critically. Empower yourself. Remember how powerful you are. Ask for the wisdom of source and change just one system a little bit. And then factor in if there was more monetary assistance behind it, how that could change it even more or spread it worldwide. I know you're going to come up with some great ideas and some great things in the future and now. And I would love for you to share those successes with us and with the world so that you can help guide and lead the world into a better way of living and a better system. And then we'll have you come back and do other ones when, care is there and there's more money behind it and how much more of a success you've had with your plan that you come up with. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to seeing those field messenger reports, and I know all of you probably are that are watching this. I do appreciate our field messengers so much. I've made dog food a little bit differently since I've watched some of the videos. I've tried some different recipes. I've used some of the agricultural advice in our garden. So I really think all of you are doing your best to help people change their worlds for the better. So I just want to say thank you to all of you and look forward to seeing those reports. And that wraps up today's World Situation Report. I hope all of you have a great rest of your Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what time it is where you are. And we will see you on Friday.